This thing this entire journey and the entire experience has been like somewhat once in a lifetime journey kind of a thing, because it's been a long journey. This was not my first attempt at CAT. I've given the exam 4 times. All the times I have managed to score more than 99. All other calls also which I had, interviews were mostly about my profile in general and current affairs. You should I would only advise an aspirant to be very thoroughly prepared. Like I like to quote one thing which I'd heard from Hardik Pandya, who's a very famous cricketer, and I think this is very relevant for all the CAT aspirants.
So, hello Sagar, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hi, thank you, good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
So, first of all, a big congratulations on scoring 99.6 percentile and making it to IIM Ahmedabad.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, how do you feel about this whole journey?
This thing this entire journey and the entire experience has been like somewhat once in a lifetime journey kind of a thing, because it's been a long journey. And this was not my first attempt at CAT. I've given the exam 4 times. All the times I have managed to score more than 99.
Okay.
And this was not the first time that I had appeared for the IIM Ahmedabad interview. I had appeared for it earlier as well, but I unfortunately couldn't make it. So after having been rejected by your dream college and coming back and getting selected is a
Right.
undescribable feeling. So yeah, that way it just feels wonderful for me and my family entirely. Yeah.
Great. So, firstly, can you tell us a little bit about your education background and then how you started your whole journey towards CAT?
Sure. So I have done my BCom from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata.
Okay.
I am also a qualified chartered accountant, and I've completed 2 levels of CFA as well. I have
Great.
experience working in the pharmaceutical sector as an equity research analyst. I was involved in the equity markets. So my journey with CAT started just after BCom. So I at that time I was pursuing CA, and I thought that maybe MBA would really more open more options for me in the core finance areas
Okay.
apart from CA. So that is when I started, and in my first attempt itself, I was lucky enough to score 99.6 itself,
Okay.
and I had calls from I had the same calls, A, L, K, I, S, and all small IIMs as well. So, but unfortunately, I couldn't convert Ahmedabad that time. It was because I did not focus much on PI, and also I had lost on the call from IIM Calcutta by a very small margin, and that really kept me a little sulky. And so it was bad that time. And then post that, I decided I'll try to build my profile and then come back and try to score high and get into any one of ABC. So that's
Right.
when I decided to complete CA and pursue with CFA and try to work and come back around and get the calls which I wanted.
Right. Brilliant. So, you already scored 99 plus percentile multiple times earlier.
Yes.
So, what made you give CAT once again? Study the same material, go through the same process. So, what kept you going during this whole journey?
So during the entire journey, I only stuck to my goal that I wanted ABC. It was a dream. Like I knew MBA is something which you are going to do once,
Right.
and it's like a marriage. So once you have it, you have to really live by it. And I
Right.
really wanted to get into any one of IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, or Calcutta. And so that kept me really motivated. Also, there was one quote which I'd always kept right in front of me in my study table, which is
Okay.
a general quote, and I feel it would help anyone. And that's a quote from the movie Rocky,
Okay.
that which goes like this: that it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and still keep moving forward without giving up. And
Great.
that's how
Great.
life is. So that really kind of kept the fire in me and kept me going. I didn't want to give up, and yeah, so that happened. Yeah.
Great. Can you tell us what was your preparation strategy in each of the three sections in CAT?
All right. So my strong suit was quants, and even in CAT, my highest sectional percentile was in quants, which was 99.77. But verbal, I was very fairly comfortable with, and DILR was the pain point which used to fluctuate a lot. And with verbal, I'll go section wise. With verbal, I think there are 2 to 3 main points which any aspirant should look at. First is extensive reading is required. you have to fall in love with the language, trying to delve deeper. When
Right.
you read, it should be active reading. You should realize that what you're reading is making sense to you. You're able to question the author, getting involved in the text. So I used to generally read a lot from the international newspapers, from the Hindu, good quality opinion articles, which really helped me improve my language skills in general.
Okay.
And then practicing RCs, looking at option elimination skills. Because once you have a hang of the passage, you just have to eliminate options, and then you can get, because in CAT mostly all the questions are from comprehension based, RC, para summary, even para jumbles and odd one out are more or less comprehension based. So I think these two are the pillars: extensive reading and option elimination skills. If you can get that, verbal would be fine.
Great.
Now with DLR, the thing is, the basic issues in DLR, if you make a small mistake, that has a magnifying impact.
Right.
Like, because if you choose a wrong set and if you're stuck with it, your entire section can tank, and you can score pretty horribly. So there, that is one space where I spent, I think, should be a little cautious. And Crackio really helped me, because since I've had multiple attempts, I've fair bit of experience of how sets in CAT are. CAT doesn't really give long DI based sets or long sets which involves a lot of calculation or is complex. The logic is easy, but it is a lengthy set. These kind of sets don't really appear. They're short sets. There's a certain logic where you have to crack the logic and the entire set will just break open. This is where I think Crackio really helped me a lot, because even in the sectionals as well in the mocks, the sets were very concise, very short, but they were entirely logic based. And in fact, I remember I gave all the sectionals which Cracky offered me for
Right.
DLR and all the mocks, and I focused on DLR extensively. So practice is the key there, and having a little calm mind will help in set selection, because until unless you choose the right set, you're going to really tank the paper. So set
Right.
selection is 50%, and then having a calm mind 50%. Then the section becomes easy.
Great. Right.
With quant, I would
One.
like to say that quant is the most loyal friend you can have
Okay.
as a CAT aspirant, because if once you have really strengthened your base, you have got it, it will always help you. Even on a bad day, you can really shoot up your quant score and maintain your overall percentile. So I think extensively practicing the basics, understanding how the basics are in place. Your basics should be in place. How to use shortcuts, how to use the concepts and get option, eliminate options and get to the answer faster. These things have to be done. And after that, I think having say sufficient sectional practice
Right.
and mock practice is crucial, because once you have done with the basics, you do it topic wise. But when all the questions come at one place at a sorted way,
Exactly. Yes.
then the game really changes. So that way, out of 34 questions, which used to be the case last year because of COVID, the number of questions reduced. But I'm assuming this year would be a 3 hour paper only. So if there are 34 questions, you have to maximize your attempts and you have to choose, pick and choose really fast. So that is a place where a really good candidate should look at attempting 24, 25 questions at least,
Right.
and really maximize their score. But extensive practice in quants and extensive sectional practice will really help. And crack you sectionals, I think, are fantastic. And even mocks are really great. Certain video solutions by Maruti sir are
Right.
really helped me to understand like how it works. Somewhere which I was losing the logic or not
Right.
realizing. So I think that place, it's all three sections. I think more or less this is what aspirant could look at.
Now, okay. So, can you tell us about the mocks? Like, how many mocks did you give, and how many hours should one spend analyzing the mocks?
So honestly speaking, I gave mocks approximately 50 to 55 mocks I gave.
Okay.
So I always thought that the more practice, the more number of mocks I give, the better hang I'll have of my nerves and my mind, because the more calm I'll be, more familiar I'll be
Right.
with sitting for 3 hours and giving the mock test. So cat wouldn't really feel much different. This is what the mindset I have, and I think serious aspirants should give close to 40 mocks at least. So and multiple test series will always help. That's the place. Like my first choice being CrackU, and then I had also IMS, which I had given Italian. I had also given a few mocks from time as well. So I really broke that down. But CrackU and IMS, these were the two series which I gave entirely, and I thought I had the best quality of mocks. I thought approximately 40 mocks, if someone can really give, that would really boost their preparation. And as far as analysis goes, for me, analysis, I think a lot of people hype it up, and
Okay.
a lot of people look at it as it's something really different. Analysis is pretty simple. You just look at the entire paper, and you have to solve what you didn't solve, and then you have to just look at the questions which you solved and you could solve at a faster pace, and where is the problem, why you are not able to solve it at a faster pace, and why you got stuck somewhere. These are the two basic things you look at. So approximately, like if you're given a 3 hour paper, you can spend approximately 2.5 hours analyzing it across these aspects, and I think that should be good to go for each mock.
Right.
I think honestly, experimentation is really important in the mock phase, because this is a place. This is something which you cannot do later on.
Right.
Only in the mocks you can try different strategies. So I used to try various strategies in various sections. So like for verbal, I have tried doing RCs first, or doing verbal ability 10 questions first, and mixing and matching also that first couple of RCs and few verbal questions, then skipping back to RCs, and then finally after experimenting a strategy for 4 or 5 mocks consistently, I realized that for me, the best way is first completing all the RCs at one go, because I'm in that zone of reading, and then get into verbal ability questions.
Okay.
So this can change person to person. You can only know your best way out after you have tried it. Same goes with DILR. Few people try to scan all the sets initially in the 5 to 10 minutes. They try to do that, and then they attempt the section. Few people just try to hit the section sets as and when they come. So you have to try that. And in quants, I think round wise strategy is standard. That should be there. First,
Right.
picking the easy, low hanging fruits, very easy questions which can be solved under 1 minute. Then go on to the questions which might take more than a minute, and then maybe try the extremely hard ones which you might or might not be able to crack. So that is crucial for quants. This is what the entire strategy I used to have mostly.
Right. So, can you tell us what calls did you receive for scoring 99.6 percentile, and what all did you convert?
So I received calls from IIM Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Kozhikode, Indore, Shillong, and all the small and baby IIMs.
Right.
I also received call from FMS since I had applied them, and I had managed to convert all the IIM calls which I had, and I'm waitlisted currently for FMS. For Bangalore and for Calcutta,
Kolkata.
I
Okay.
missed them by a whisker. So like Calcutta, I missed by 0.25 marks.
Okay.
Last guy called was 99.62, and I had a 99.6 percentile. And Bangalore, I missed it by 1 CS because my composite score was 53, and the last guy called was at 54. Just by whisker, I missed those two calls.
Okay.
But yeah, I managed to convert Ahmedabad, so I think
Ahmedabad. Right.
that has made up. That has made up more or less.
Okay. Right. So, how did you prepare for the interview? Like each stage of the interview process?
So post cat in December, mostly I didn't do much apart from just regularly updating myself with the newspapers,
Okay.
and being there with the current affairs, and just knowing about things going around. I didn't do much in the December part. January, as soon as the result really came out, I knew that now I have to really focus on this PI part, because I've made the mistake earlier that I did not prepare for the PI. I didn't give it its due as I gave to the cat, and I did not manage to convert. And then your cat score doesn't really matter if you don't really get into a good V school, which is your target. So I started my journey there, and as soon as the dates came out, I still remember Ahmedabad had 2 months to go.
Okay.
So I was fortunate to have a lot of time there. So 2 months were there for, and I remember telling myself that if these 2 months I can genuinely prepare hard, I know I'll get to the place I want to be, and Ahmedabad would be within my reach. So I started with understanding, looking at interview experiences, various interview experiences people have had, and I realized there's a kind of pattern which you can understand with PI. They talk about your academics, your background. So like I am a chartered accountant, and I am from a BCom background, so I know finance and commerce questions, normal accounting questions, question on basic stats, basic maths would be there. Like they could ask me how to value a company, how to look at a stock, or how the stock market is functioning. These questions would be pretty standard. So that is one thing I knew. Second, I realized that the basics of polity is something which they tend to ask, like how a bill could be passed in the parliament, number of seats in Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, or things like that.
Right.
So having basics in place of polity, basics in place of your academics, certain geographical knowledge. Like I'll get to that point about
Sure.
my Ahmedabad experience. Geography consisted of few questions. They asked me neighboring states of my current state, neighboring countries of my state, and things like that. So having a little bit of knowledge about that is crucial. And current affairs is one point which is very, very important. I cannot emphasize enough, because you have to realize that if you're a candidate and
Right.
you're sitting in front of a panel, the panel can be from a different background. He can be a marketing professor, he can be operations professor, he can be from any background. But current affair, is a point where you can converse with him, with anyone, with probably from any background. So like if something is going around, you should probably try to be aware of it. And reading good quality newspapers will help. Like for example, I used to read the Indian Express daily, on a daily basis. And I
Okay.
used to keep myself updated in a copy, that okay, what is happening. So I write it down, and I used to probably get a summary of it, because that would help me even in the VAT, because Ahmedabad had analytical writing
Right.
test this year. Others had scrapped that process, that part. I think these sections are really important. And apart from this, HRQs have to be have to have solid preparation, because the HR questions will be your starting point in more or less in all the PIs. But this is the basics of PI which I thought,
Sure.
and how I prepared.
Right. So now, okay. So now let's discuss about the IIM Ahmedabad interview experience specifically. Like, so what were the kind of questions that are asked?
So as soon as I entered, there were two panelists. One was a male professor and one was a female professor. Both of them had the economics background, which
Okay.
I later found out after trying to look at the dig in the faculty directory. So as soon as I entered, they tried to put a little bit of pressure on me,
Okay.
and they asked me that tell me something about yourself which is not in the interview form, and
Okay.
I just don't want to listen anything about your academics and all of that. Tell
Okay.
me something which is not in your form. And I remember that his voice was a little stern initially. So I thought, okay, this might be a stress interview.
Okay.
So I gave a qualitative statement. I said that, sir, I have been fortunate enough to be persistent enough in my academics, and I also would like to believe that I have an attitude of never giving up. So then I remember he sternly replied that anyone who is sitting outside
Right.
would say the same thing. There are seven people outside who would say the same thing. Nobody would say that I've cheated for an accounting exam, or I have not been persistent, or I have not worked hard and all of that. How would you substantiate your claim?
Okay.
So I remember I told him that, sir, this is not the first time I've come for this interview. I've come for the Ahmedabad interview earlier as well. And scoring high in CAT, getting the interview call, and repeating the entire process for a year, I think shows my quality on never giving up, and to really be the like there with the thing, and not getting demotivated. So I think that shows that. And he bought that. He understood it. He said, then what about the persistent part?
Okay.
Then I mentioned that I was all India rank 24 in CA Inter. I was also a merit list rank holder in college. I was rank 6, and I was also school rank holder passing out. So I think consistently doing well shows my persistence. So
Right.
that convinced him. And post that, he asked me that what went wrong last year. Tell me a single question which could be different now than the. So I answered my EMBA question, which
Right.
was which answer I did not prepare in the previous attempts. But this year I had a clear vision of why I want to pursue MBA. I explained that. Post that, there were a
Okay.
couple of questions from my background.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then couple of questions were from my background. One of them was about Sarbanes-Oxley Act, any chartered accountant would understand, and one was about why the equity markets are rising but the economy is falling. So
Okay.
this is what they asked, and I had to answer, and I answered pretty satisfactorily. Post this, there were few questions on the geographical front, as I said.
Okay.
They asked me that where are the first it started with where are the elections taking place this year, all the state elections I mentioned. They went on to ask me the neighboring states of all the more or less all the states which were going into election. So I had to tell them, and I because I was prepared well, I could answer them,
Right.
and they were satisfied with it. And also they asked me which country is neighboring from West Bengal, since I belong to West Bengal, and that also I was able to answer. Then they started asking me, do you know about Abhijit Banerjee, who is a Nobel laureate
Right.
from West Bengal? I mentioned that. They asked me about other Nobel laureates from West Bengal. I mentioned them all. And this is one point where I think was very crucial, because the female professor had
Right.
literally said me that you remember Ronald Ross as well. That is very impressive. So she was very impressed with that because I knew all the names. And since I had prepared well, I could talk about the first Nobel laureate, Ronald Ross, in 1860 as well. And that was somewhere where I could really impress them. And post this, there were also a few questions on the political scenario in Bengal and now what do you think would happen in the elections, because elections were just around the corner. And I remember they gave me a puzzle question as well, which was a simple three variable equation, and it goes like 29x plus 31y plus 30z is equal to 366. And they
Okay.
asked me what is xyz, and this was the only question which I couldn't answer. I tried explaining my process, but I couldn't answer that question. Otherwise, other questions which I said I was able to answer. In the end, I remember the professor told me that the interview is over, and he
Okay.
asked me to take a toffee in front of me. I took that, and then he said to me that the equation which we gave you, try to link it with a leap year, and I think it will help. And that is the moment where it just struck me that it
Okay.
is a number of months. XYZ is a number of months. And I said, and he was laughing and he said, it's all right, it's fine, it just doesn't matter. Thank you very much. So it was a very
Great.
smooth experience. And after the interview experience itself, I remember I was very happy, but
Very
you never
confident.
know. Yeah, I was very confident, I was very happy, but with Ahmedabad, you just never know because they can do anything. So I didn't really celebrate too much, but inside I did have a lot of hope
Right. Yeah.
that it could come through. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So more
amazing.
or less
Right.
it was this.
Great.
All other calls also which I had, interviews were mostly about my profile in general and current affairs.
Okay.
So you should I would only advise an aspirant to be very thoroughly prepared with his undergrad, with any other degree which he has pursued, and his profile he should be really strong. Like that part you just cannot afford to fumble with, because if you're a finance guy and he's asking you finance, you just cannot afford to say I don't know this,
Right.
like basic stuff. So that I think is a place should be strong, and the current affairs should be really strong for any aspirant for the interview phase especially.
Okay, brilliant. So finally, what is that you want to tell the CAT aspirants? What are the tips that you want to give them regarding CAT preparation as well as the interviews?
So I think if I look at the entire journey of this 1.5 years which you give for CAD prep and for also the interview phases, one constant thing which you need is a strong mindset. I like to quote one thing which I'd heard from Hardik Pandya, who's a very famous cricketer. He said that a lot of guys who prepare for the national team to get into the national team do the same training which we do, and
Right.
they get the same resources more or less, but they are just not able to execute because they do not have the mindset, they do not have the strong mentality to handle pressure and soak in the pressure and perform. And I think this is very relevant for all the CAT aspirants, because mostly in the upper echelon all the aspirants are more or less have equal ability when it comes to CAT or even interviews,
Right.
but it is all mostly about execution, and that can only fall into place if you have been confident enough and you have that knack of absorbing pressure and performing and executing. So I think mindset really plays a role. Even in CAT, like you just cannot afford to panic. Last 1 year, because I knew that this would be my last attempt. In my mind,
Okay.
I decided that this was the last time I was applying for CAT. But I just did not want to take pressure. The entire year I used to speak to myself that do not panic, and if you don't panic on the D-Day, you'll eventually get a high score and you'll manage to get the calls.
Right.
So I think for anyone that just before the interview or just before the CAT day, just soaking the pressure and performing and executing their strategies with a calm mind is of extreme paramount importance, I think, and that really makes the difference between the guy who makes it and the guy who just gets behind the line. I think mindset is one really important thing. Ability to absorb pressure, in a sense.
Great.
More or less, with interviews, I think a lot of people go for mock practices as well, like mock interviews, mock
Yeah. Right.
PIs. Even I gave a lot of mock PIs, to be very honest, and fine tuning. I think that is very important, like because when you speak in an interview, you probably end up believing that whatever I'm speaking and the way I'm speaking is right. But the guy who sits in front of you is evaluating you. He can actually look at where you are stuttering, where you are stopping, how what kind of finesse you have in the way you are speaking. And that I think is very important at the PI phase. Giving few mock PIs is crucial for proper evaluation. Apart from obviously the things about current affairs and reading stuff which I said earlier about your academics. Knowledge gaining part is one. Mock PIs is also very important during the PI phase, because that other than that you won't be able to really evaluate yourself. So I think that is very important. Yeah, more or less.
All right, perfect. So, thank you so much, Sagar. I had a great time talking to you, and you shared some really valuable insights.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I hope this really helps people for the times to
Right,
come, and the
sure,
aspirants for CAT 2021. Best wishes to them, and I hope they really manage to crack it.
sure. And all the best for your journey to IIM Ahmedabad.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.